Okay, class, so today we're learning about rocks and minerals. As you already know from your pre-assessment, we are going to be talking about the difference between metamorphic, sedimentary, igneous, and the rock cycle. So we're also going to be identifying some rocks, so that's going to be super fun. Okay, so first, here's a poster about the different rocks and where they're found. Now we're going to watch a video about the different rocks and where they're found and what's around North Carolina and where we live. And here's also a book that you can read in your own time, or we can read it now, depending on, some kids either want to read a book or watch a video. You could break them up into two, or you could do them both as the entire class. Depends. And then also if there's a lot of different kids with different languages in the class, you could do either a video, the same video in either a couple different languages, or you can have different language subtitles. So that would probably be helpful, especially for ELL kids or kids who just like to read subtitles. And then, so now I'm going to pass around some different rocks, and we are going to just look at them and talk about some different characteristics. So this rock, if you look at it, it's white, has some little shiny crystals and such. So I'm just going to pass that around, and everyone can look at it and make sure you write down some different characteristics about it that you notice. And so here's the next one. It's a bit different. It's got little pieces in there that you can see. Make sure you write down how they look and how different parts of the rock look. They all have different parts to them. And then the last one I'm going to pass around is this one. And it's really different. It's kind of shiny. So, yeah. Alright, now we're going to look at the rock chart. And so we're going to talk about what the different parts mean, how you can look at one part and know its characteristics, or test its streak and luster, which we would also have talked about in the vocabulary part. Maybe watch a video, do some examples like testing it, like can you scratch the rock with your fingernail, and stuff like that, the hardness of it. And then talk about what it means. And then we're going to do a scaffold type lesson. So I'm gonna split the class into 3 groups, and then we're gonna have one group has a set of a couple different rocks, and they're going to have matching cards. And so they might have 4 rocks and 5 different cards. So, hopefully more than that. But they would have the cards, and then they would also have their identification guide that has different ones highlighted. So they might see one is feldspar. Then they can look on their rock guide and say, okay, this is what feldspar looks like. Do we have anything on here that looks like feldspar? And so on and so forth. So that would be the group 1 scaffold. And then group 2, they would also have a guide, but they would have to look through and try and guess to see which one they thought it was, rather than just having matching cards. I might have several highlighted on their paper, but they might not all be there, and so they wouldn't be looking through the entire guide. And then the third group would have the rocks, and then they would have a guide, and then they would have to explain why they thought a rock was feldspar, and then note the defining characteristics and like really just write out like why they chose that and why they wouldn't have chosen like something else. And then after that, students can choose to write about rocks and minerals, give an oral presentation, and I might do this like in a tic-tac-toe where they can choose several ones, but make a model of where a certain rock or mineral is found. So like if one is found like primarily in the ocean, students can build a model of the ocean and then maybe like build a rock and put it down there and then kind of like give a little presentation or write a little summary about it. And another activity they could do would be to give like the evolution of rocks and minerals. So like one mineral might have take one form and then later on take another form and then later on take another form. So they can see like it's all the same thing but it's in different forms, and that I think that would be really cool, especially for the higher achieving kids. And then we could go on a rock hunt, either outside or in class, depending on I guess the day or what rocks are around the state that you're in. But for like if you're going to do it in a class, you might have 3 different sections set up with different rocks at each one. And one section might have like a rock sitting in front of it, and then it might have a hint or a clue that says like that like gives a hint about what kind of rock it is. And then students there, and it might also have options, so it'll have a hint and then it'll have maybe 4 or 5 different options of what it could be, and then those students will have their own guide and say like and choose from the guide which one they think it is based on the clues and the options. And then the second group will have they won't have any hints, but they'll have the options, and they'll also have the guide. And so then they can choose, they can look at the different options and then look at their guide and say, okay, this one doesn't look like it says, and do stuff like that. And then the last group will have no hints, no options, but have the guide. So they'll have to look at it, look through the guide, try and figure out what they think it is. And some of them are kind of tricky, so I think that'll be good for them to really, if there's a couple that sound the same or look the same, I think that'll be good for them to try and figure it out and get something wrong every now and again. Whenever you make mistakes, your brain grows. So, and then after that, we could have like reflection time. We could come together as a class and like do a group discussion, or we could do like different worksheets. So like maybe group 1 learned like something different than groups 2 and 3. We could even do a jigsaw and say like if there were different rocks at each different group, which I would hope, like group 1 could come to someone in group 2 and 3 and say, okay, I learned about obsidian over here and it was really cool. It looked like glass. It comes from volcanoes. And then someone in group 2 could say like, oh, I had granite and stuff like that. And so group 3 as well. So they can each learn about like different rocks from each other and like the defining characteristics of different rocks. And then everyone can walk around and look at the different rocks and talk to their groups about like what they learned about each rock. And another activity that they could do is create their own rock cycle. So like once you learned about sedimentary, metamorphic, and igneous, they can say, without looking at a picture of it, they can try and figure out what the rock cycle actually looks like, because it's kind of tricky if you have never seen it before. So have them like create what they think it looks like, and then show them like what it looks like, and then they could like talk to different groups about why it looks that way and stuff like that. But for the representation part, it was the posters, the videos, looking at different books, and giving them an outline of the important information while lecturing, watching videos, looking at posters, so that they know, like whenever they hit a certain, whenever they see a question on their sheet and they hear it, or they see it, or they read it, like they know, like, okay, that's important, I'm going to write that down. So I would also put that in there, and I use that also as remembering, so they have that sheet to go back to, they can look back and forth to it. And then action and expression was the passing it around different rocks, and then understanding the rock charts, looking at like cool websites on rocks and minerals, doing the scaffolds, which also was applying for blooms, writing, giving presentations, making models. And then engagement was the jigsaws, going on a rock hunt, and within the rock hunt there was analyzing which rock you thought it was, then reflections, worksheets, jigsaws, conversations, and create models of where the rocks come from, the evolution of rocks and minerals, and creating your own rock cycle. So, yay.